Hey, Chad here. So I've not made a video in a long time, and I'm okay with that. But I wanted to talk briefly today about something that's troubled me around the politics, especially the younger folks. And I think it's great that younger folks are involved, and I don't consider myself that old, but something came to a head today. It involves Bernie Sanders' campaign and Gloria Steinem. Gloria went on Bill Maher last week and said some crazy stuff, kind of. And then some people have been taking her task, which is fine. But I got this statement today that has really went viral. It's from a woman, Moumita, Ahmed. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name, but she's the Millennium Grassroots Organizer for People for Bernie. And her response was, I think that Gloria Steinem is a woman with money and status, so it must be hard for her to imagine what it's like to have to struggle to pay off student loans and make the rent working on a low-wage job, and it's easier to write off my support for Bernie as a hormone thing and informed decision. I started like, oh, that hurt me. And I really, why? I'm like, well, here's why. And first of all, I think this speaks to a larger issue. As a historian, I'm always trouble with revisionist history. So I want to give some context to that. First of all, Gloria Steinem is 81 years old. So if you're 81 years old in this America, I don't care how much money you have or you didn't have, you know struggle as a woman. But I want to tell you just a couple of things about this. And remember, the comment says she's a woman with money and status. So let's first talk about that. She's actually not. And whatever it is, it's not vested status. So her dad was a Jewish antique dealer. Her mother actually had a nervous breakdown when she was in utero. The parents separated in 1944, and Gloria stayed with her mother. So, this was a woman. This was a young 10-year-old girl helping raise a woman who was crazy before there's a clinical term for it. So right there, I'm thinking there's some struggle. But the bigger issue is, and this is what I think we're having a hard trouble with people understanding the context. Whatever money she has, she earned because she was the first one. So I don't know. This is a weird thing about faulting people for money that they've earned. So it's not like Trump. It's not like a Kennedy. She founded things. She's often the very first and only woman in there. In 1972, she was the first woman to speak at the National Press Conference. I can't remember. As somebody who's often the first black or first gay people in the room, I can tell you that's not fun. And luckily, people today, you don't have to do that often. But most importantly, I want to talk about this whole concept of the missing thing. Because when I heard them, I'm like, really? So Gloria Steinem is a little older than my mom. If you know any women in this country, 75 or old or 70, they all have one thing in common. They reached adulthood before it didn't even matter how much money they had. They couldn't get a mortgage. We were in the mid-60s before women could get a mortgage on their own. It took legislation for women to get credit cards. So imagine that. Imagine for a moment you're college educated, you have your own money, but you need a man as a cosigner. Or imagine that you're living in a home in the 60s or 50s or 70s and there's domestic violence, but you can't leave because you have a credit card in your name. So when I hear younger women say this, it's like there's a history. We've missed something. That's why I find it offensive. To be honest, I find this more offensive than what a lot of Trump says. I also wait a second. Gloria Steinem got pregnant at 22 and had a legal abortion in a different country. She had to leave the country to have an illegal abortion. So suddenly, when you say that this woman doesn't know struggle because she said some asinine things or she can't pay her work, it becomes problematic. And it's hard for a lot of reasons. One is just historically untrue. And so we should just stop there. But it's also problematic because so many people co-signed it. Like nobody said, wait a second, she's 81. If you know history in America, she's 81. She's had some struggle. Black people, there's some struggle. And I don't think it diminishes this younger generation's struggle, but to dismiss and to take away is part of patriarchy. I mean, that's the definition of patriarchy. Women participate in patriarchy. When you say that some woman doesn't have struggle because she can't pay off student loans or work a low-wage job, and I just told you these things, which are not unique to me. You could have found them out before you did that. It's problematic. You've just dismissed this woman. Those are just I didn't even talk about all her major business. I'm just talking about some personal struggles, not even the workplace struggles. So just to recap, Gloria Steinem was born in 1934. She lived in a trailer as they sold antiques. Her parents divorced in 1944. She was left as a 10-year-old to take care and live with her mother, who was violent and all these other things. Okay. Then years later, at 22, she got pregnant and had to leave the broken engagement and left the country to have an abortion. All that happened way before I was even born. And so I guess we need to go, so I'm going to guard our words. I'm going to close because I'm kind of rambling now. Guard our words because when we say things, you can't take it back. This meme is out there, especially if you're trying to convince people. Because when I'm like, really? Because I don't know that I'm sure she's a wonderful woman, but what I know now is that that's not true, and that you didn't vet that, and that there's no. And so why am I less inclined to be upset with this than when I hear Donald Trump say stupid stuff? I mean, this is stupid. It's not true. It wasn't vetted. It's offensive. There's no other way around it. And the fact that it's a woman or a woman of color doesn't change anything. I mean, had Donald Trump said this, you all would have gone to Wikipedia. Like, no, we can't say this. So what do we have to do? We have to guard our words, do our homework. We can have both new stuff and old stuff. It's not a competition. Do what you need to do, but be very careful when we want to attack and diminish other people who came and who did things before us. Even if they're not doing things now. To be honest, when you're 81, you can hang up your head and do nothing in my book. So once again, yeah, I guess that's it. I think we just going forward, if we can just look and, be grace and mercy. All right, bye. This makes no sense, sorry.